Thank you, Madam Speaker. To the bill. Colleagues, House Bill 4145 comes to you from the Judiciary Committee, where it passed on a 7-2 vote with 2 members excused. In considering this bill, we listened to the concerns of our colleagues regarding the provision that a person could be dispossessed of their firearms for missing a court hearing. While it was viewed as weakening the bill by some, we agreed to remove this provision. If a person misses his first court hearing, they will not automatically be dispossessed under this bill. We did this to accommodate those concerns and in an attempt to compromise, which we believe was the right thing to do. I, like many of you, have received emails saying this is another bill that just affects law-abiding gun owners. Colleagues, this is not the case. I am a law-abiding gun owner. This bill does not affect me because I am not stalking or committing violent crimes against a former partner. As you know, it is illegal in Oregon for a person to knowingly possess a firearm or ammunition if they have been convicted of a violent crime against an intimate partner or are subject to a stalking order by an intimate partner. But a dangerous loophole exists that allows a convicted domestic abuser to continue to legally possess firearms if they were not married to, the parent of a child with, or living with the target of their abuse. Furthermore, the current version of this law leaves out stalking as a qualifying misdemeanor. I ask you to consider something for a moment, Madam Speaker and colleagues. 1 in 3 women have experienced domestic violence in their lifetime. The presence of a gun in domestic violence situations makes it 5 times more likely that a woman will be killed. 15.2% of women have been the victim of stalking during their lifetimes. 68.8% of those stalking victims report being stalked by a current or former partner. Women are 70 times, Madam Speaker, 70 times more likely to be killed in the 2 weeks after leaving a partner, for instance, after seeking a stalking order or domestic violence conviction. They're more likely than at any other time during the relationship. Those numbers are staggering. For most people, these kinds of domestic violence accounts are just something you read in a few column inches, a story in a newspaper, or maybe hearing a story from a friend or acquaintance about violence that had been performed on them. But let me tell you one story out of many that I saw as a police officer during my 31 years. Madam Speaker, I've tried to suppress those memories, and I did in those days a lot of drinking to help suppress those memories. But when we were having the hearing in committee the other day, one of them popped back up. This is a story that occurred in your district out in the Kenton area of Portland, Oregon. I'd been to an apartment several occasions on domestic violence abuse calls. This was prior to when the mandatory arrest had to be made in domestic violence. So the woman would not sign a complaint. The perpetrator was able to stay there. We get another call. We go out there, and they said there had been a shooting. And as I stand here, it comes back to me quite clearly. The apartment looked like a classic movie scene of a fight. There was food on the walls. There was broken dishes. And most heartbreaking, there was a young mother dead on the floor. The 2 children were in the room crying, and the husband was still there, who we did arrest. The woman had been shot with a rifle that night. And at one point during that attempt, when she was being shot, she attempted to defend herself and had tried to grab the rifle, and it had part of her hand blown off by it. And I still remember very clearly seeing that on the floor of that apartment and those poor little kids crying. Had there not been a gun in that family, maybe those girls would have been able to grow up with their mother, and hopefully that family could have been reconciled, but the domestic violence was there. But the gun made the difference that night and ended that young woman's life, again, at a place where I'd been before when the gun wasn't used. Colleagues, I support gun rights, but convicted domestic abusers and stalkers do not have an inherent right to continue to possess firearms. The individuals who they battered, who they stalked, and their children, their family members, their co-workers, those people have a right to feel safe and to be safe from violence. Let us not allow the suffering of Oregonians who have already survived domestic violence and stalking to be compounded by a loophole that treats them as second-class citizens simply because they weren't married to their abusers. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Yes, Madam Speaker, I would. Thank you again. And thank you, colleagues, for the debate today, for the respect shown for each other. I really appreciate that. And I just want to say in closing, I hope this is the kind of thing we can continue to come together on to pass to make our state a safer place for everyone. I believe from the bottom of my heart that this bill will save lives in Oregon. Thank you, and I urge your aye vote. Thank you, Madam Speaker.